everyone? This is back. You know how it is. It's Kamish back here with week previews. This time week 7. Officially reached the halfway point here of the season. Heading into week 7. You saw the matchup, so let's just get right into it. First one, got to look at Joshua Cry Phoenix sitting at 4-2 versus Steven 2-4. You know the storyline in this one. Really, for Steven, you're one step away as far as points for goes from George, which pretty much means you're having a disaster of a season. You know, you were on the stinker of the week for 4 of the 6 weeks so far. It has not gone your way, and you know, it doesn't get any easier here against Joshua, who's obviously fighting in that tough West division. You know, for Joshua, you know, you said it yourself, maybe some of the keeper choices were bad this year, but you know, on the bright side, you got to be an optimist. You're 4-2, and you will have Ladarius Green coming back. You know, was one of your keepers. Hopefully he'll be able to provide you with a late season spark. Next up, we got Mike in the CDC taking on Danny, and alright. You know, both teams obviously struggling. Mike 2-4, Danny, of course, the 20th seed at 1-5, or maybe you're not anymore because you won. Sorry, I forgot. But you know, you got to look at this. Mike CDC. You know, same thing with you and the keepers. Eddie Lacey let you down again. I think, you know, it's almost time to turn the page on Lacey. Almost. You know, for Danny, big first win. But you know, you got a big test here against an original owner. But this is obviously going to be a big game for both teams' survival. So it should be interesting to see how this one plays out. Next up, we got Glevin and Monsters of the Midway at 4-2, taking on George and Pack Attack at 2-4. You know, for Monsters of the Midway, guys, serious. Obviously, made the huge trade to get Shady McCoy. You know, and then for George, he's made a flurry of trades. I'm still trying to understand what your strategy is, George. You traded me one of your receivers for a draft pick, but then you traded Ingram away for 2 role players. So I really don't know where you're going, George. Like I say, you know, I see the message. You're loyal, you're committed, and the commission appreciates that. But you really need to figure out what you're doing, because if you don't soon, could be a long season for you. Actually, that's a correction. George's actually sitting at 1-5. My apologies. Next up, we got Brian and the 12th man taking on Chris and True North, 2 original owners. Brian, of course, last year's champion, sitting at 5-1. True North at 2-4. You know, looking at it, the 12th man is 2-1 officially against Chris and True North. Last year he lost to True North, but in 2014, obviously one of the big wins was in the 2014 semifinals to get to the final for Brian. I'm sure Chris would love to get a little bit of a redemption for that loss, and should be interesting to see if he'll be able to find a way to get that redemption in this one. Obviously, the 12th man made some really good trades this past week. I think, you know, you had the extra defense there with the Bills defense. You picked up a really good linebacker, and then you pick up Mark Ingram. So obviously, Brian and the 12th man is going to be right there again, and it should be interesting to see how this one will play out. Next up, again, 2 original owners, Sean and Ha Ha Dix, taking on Milan in the 6th. Both teams sitting at 3-3. And what a game this is. Let's face it, both teams are probably fighting for their playoff lives in this one. You know, Milan in the 6th, you still have a good shot at the division too. You're only a game back. For Sean, you know, I gotta be honest with you. I've obviously been playing fantasy with you for a few years. I've seen you get fleeced on a lot of trades, and I have to say you got fleeced on your latest one. The deal, McCoy, Gillisley, Jordan Matthews, and a 30th for Sanu Allen and a 1st. I mean, you know, looking at it, Grevin's smart enough to get Gillisley in the deal just in case McCoy goes down. And then Matthews, of course. So that's 3 players that are going to give you points right off the bat. Whereas really all you got out of it for yourself this year, Dix, is Sanu. And then you got Keenan Allen, who's been injury prone pretty much his entire short career. So, I mean, obviously he's going to be a keeper for you next year. But, you know, I have to say he got fleeced again, but only time will tell, I guess. Next up, we got, again, two Old owners here. We got Krista and Storm taking on Ryan and Deuce Bombers. Again, another huge one for both teams' playoff lives. You know, for Storm, the big thing here is she wants to avenge last year's semifinal loss. Obviously, Deuce Bombers took Storm out, went to the final, did lose, but you know, I'm sure Storm would have loved to be in that final, and this is the revenge game right here, and this is your chance to avenge that semifinal loss. So it should be interesting to see if revenge is given in this one. Next up, another huge battle. Two original owners, Robert and Templar sitting at 4-2, taking on Susan Fighting Geese sitting at 4-2. They played twice in 2014. They didn't play last year, but Susan the Geese are career record 2-0 versus Templars. So she'll hope to continue that success against Robert and Templars. Whereas, you know, this week though, no Dak for Geese, which means Case Keenum's going to get the start. And then for Templars, I'm sure it was really nice to see Odell go off. And it'll be interesting to see if Odell goes off again in that morning game against Los Angeles. So it's going to be a fun one to watch. And I think it's going to be a true test of where these two teams are at this point in the season. Next up, huge South Division battle. We got Luke and Too Good for a Name sitting at 3-3, taking on the Deflator at 4-2. You know, heartbreak versus Danny and Alrights last week for Luke. You know, looking at it for Luke, the thing is, you're 0-2 right now against the South Division. Your next two games after this are against South Division opponents. If you want any hope of winning your division, obviously you got to win your divisional games. You know, so this is a time for Tom Terrific, hopefully, to step up for you. For Deflator, no Superman in this one, so this is a perfect chance for Luke to try to get a W. But, you know, Brandon has showed some resolve this year at 4-2, and it's not like Superman's put up the same numbers like he did last year, so should be a good one to watch. And next up, you saw it now, so the stinker of the week is now shifted to the survival game of the week. And the survival game of the week this week is Ron and Steel Curtain at 1-5, taking on Mark and Luck Commander at 2-4. Bad luck for Ron. He loses Big Ben for at least 4-6. You know, that trade, you traded Dak Prescott away. Sure wish you probably had him now, as you got to turn to Brock Osweiler to be your starter. And he has to play Denver this week. And we already heard the Denver defensive team players say they're going to make him pay. And I think they will. So, obviously, it's going to be a tough game. And then for Luck Commander, big trade for you. You get the Bills defense. You know, he gave up a good linebacker for it. But, you know, looking at it, it was market value. You get a second highest scoring defense in the league. And obviously, that's going to help you a lot because the Colts defense is dreadful. Next up, it's the game of the week. It's the South Division Power versus the North Division Power, at least for now. It's the Commission Stars at 5-1, taking on Lucas and Green Lightning 4-2. Right now, the two teams have met before. Lucas is 1-0 against the Commish. You know, looking at it, you know, myself, I made some trades to add 2 depth wide receivers to just try to help bolster my lineup as I try to make a playoff push here. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do, folks. Whereas Lucas and Green Lightning, you know, he's got a solid running game there. And it's also going to be interesting to see who he decides to go with the quarterback. It's Bradford heading back to Philly in this one. So, going to be a great one to watch. Of course, you guys can vote on the poll. I hope you have an excellent Week 7, and we'll see you on the fantasy field.